Right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, guys, what I'm going to go ahead and do, we're going to go ahead and get started because I will not penalize you for being here on time. And we want to, first of all, just welcome you over to this amazing webinar we have lined up for you called How to Pick a College. Again, my name is Latrina Artist. I am the Scholarship Program Director at the Jeanette Rankin Foundation. If you don't know, we provide scholarships or scholar grants to women going back to complete their first undergraduate degree. And just know I'm excited because our application cycle is open. Talking about how to pick for college, I won't steal the thunder, but we're going to talk about how to pay for college in another webinar. But again, here, just know that we're delighted to have you here and know that we support women to college completion. That's what our goal and what our mission is. And we want to see that happen for as many women as possible. So without further ado, I want to actually give our other team member an opportunity to introduce herself so that you're familiar with her, Kat Luna I'm talking about. And then after that, I will introduce our very own speaker for the hour, which is Michelle Johnson. So Kat, if you can just introduce yourself to everybody and we'll get going here with Michelle.
Thank you, Latrina. So I am Kat Luna, and I am the Scholar Grant Program Manager for the Jeanette Rankin Foundation. And I just like what Latrina was saying, support our scholars in succeeding in crossing that finish line and earning a degree. So anything that I can do to help support them in any way that I can, that is my job. I'm so happy that you guys are here today and that you're watching this workshop. This is such an important topic and really a game changer for a lot of students' college experience. So I'm just really excited to be here today. And if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. If you have any questions that you feel like you don't want to put in the chat, you're welcome to message me individually and I can work it out and I can ask the question for you. However you feel comfortable, I'm here to support you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kat. I greatly appreciate that. And something that neither Kat nor myself said. So hopefully it gives us a little bit of, I don't want to say an expert, but give us a little bit of credibility. Kat and I both are former Jeanette Rankin scholars. So let me just say this, we totally know and understand this process of how to pick a college. And we're going to bring in now the expert, Michelle Johnson, who can really, so I think us kind of tripling it together, I think we're going to have an amazing webinar. So let me go ahead and introduce our speaker, who will oversee this workshop today. Michelle Johnson, she is the CEO of Bold Thought Partners, LLC. She's a national consultant and advocate for affordable, transparent, and equitable higher education, serving clients who are scholarship providers, okay? College access programs and universities. Michelle Johnson was formerly the vice president of Central Scholarship, which was a scholarship provider in Maryland. Michelle's expertise is actually in financial education and advocacy. Michelle is the graduate of the University of Maryland, and the University of Virginia. She is the granddaughter of immigrants and a first-generation college student whose children are now college graduates. Awesome. She believes that education is the gateway to economic opportunity and a game changer in our personal and family trajectories. So without further ado, I will now turn it over to Michelle Johnson.
Thank you so much, Latrina, and thank you, Kat, also, and Karen as well. And I'm delighted to be here today with my friends from the Jeanette Rankin Foundation for a conversation on how to navigate your college search. Next slide, please. This is our agenda for today. We will start with decision points, then we'll hear from Latrina. We'll walk through two examples, one for a nursing career pathway, the other for a university focused on student success. Then we'll hear Kat's story. Next, we'll look at tips, resources, and finally end with questions and answers. There is a handout which you will receive after this presentation by email. Next slide, please. Did you know there are more than 3,000 colleges and universities in the United States? Narrowing your search to your community and online, there will still be an overwhelming number of options. For instance, within an hour of my home, which is on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, there are 4 community colleges, 4 public universities, including a military academy, and 2 private colleges. And then there are plenty of online options. To begin your search, create a list of colleges either near you or online. There are 9 decision points that I have identified, which will vary for each one of you. Every one of you will be different, and there's no right or wrong answers. So the first decision point: do you prefer a 2-year program, a 2-year program plus transfer, or a 4-year program? 2-year is a community college, and 4-year, of course, is a college or a university. It is okay not to be sure, but each pathway has its own unique pros and cons. For example, a 2-year program at a community college may be the most affordable. It may also offer the most classes in the evening and on weekends. It may have the smallest class sizes, offer the most personal attention, be the closest to your home, or have a transfer agreement with nearby 4-year public or private colleges and universities. Community colleges in 24 states are now allowed to offer bachelor's degree. This is a very, very new development and something that you may want to look at in your state. At community colleges, sometimes non-credit remedial classes will slow your progress and use up your financial aid, and the graduation rates at community colleges are not always extremely high. The option of community college plus transfer is great for certain majors, and one example is nursing. And community college plus transfer makes college more affordable. Finally, 4-year colleges often have higher completion rates. They offer a variety of courses and majors. They eliminate worries about transferring credits, but they are the most expensive of these 3 options. So that's it for decision point number 1. Decision point number 2, are you interested in attending class virtually or in person, or do you not know? On campus, there are wonderful amenities such as computer labs, reliable internet service, libraries, science labs, in-person interaction with professors, students, and staff, and finally, fewer distractions. Virtual, of course, has other great features such as flexibility for working parents, a safer environment during the pandemic, no worries about transportation or parking. It expands the pool of colleges that you have to choose from, and you can attend class from wherever you are, though you must have reliable internet access, required technology, and a quiet place to learn. One recommendation is that if virtual is your choice, please make sure you choose a college that is known for a robust virtual learning experience. And many colleges entered the world of virtual during COVID, and some have done a great job, but not all. So again, if virtual is your choice, do your homework. Okay, next, decision point number 3. Will you attend classes in the daytime, at night, or on the weekend? There is one university in Florida that offers classes and labs 24/7, but that is the exception rather than the rule. Again, this is a personal preference. Weigh your options, decide what works best for you, and then make sure that you choose a college that offers exactly what you are looking for. Next slide, please. We're going to discuss decision points 4 and 5 together. Are you interested in a public or a private college? And are you interested in a small, medium, or large college? Public and private colleges offer much different campus experiences. Private college have a much higher sticker price that puts off a lot of people, but many private colleges offer generous financial aid for students who they want to attend. So if you have what they are looking for instance, they may give you an enormous scholarship that actually brings a private college in financial range with a public college or maybe even a community college. Again, it's all about who they are looking for. Private colleges often have smaller classes with opportunities to know your professors and the highest graduation rates of all. Public colleges generally have a larger student body and many more majors. One example in Florida, Florida State University has 32,000 undergraduates and offers 73 undergraduate majors. Meanwhile, nearby Rollins College has 2,100 undergraduates and 36 majors. Rollins is a private college. At large public colleges, you may be sitting in a lecture hall the size of a movie theater. Public universities often have opportunities for scientific research that smaller institutions do not have. And finally, if you love sports, there's nothing like a large public university for football and basketball. Decision point number 6, what is your preferred major? There are so many choices. Choosing a major can sometimes be overwhelming. Sometimes, some of you may have a plan and some of you may not, and that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes you have a plan and you still change your mind. Sometimes you take a class and you have what I call an aha moment, when you realize that this is what you want to do with your life. Most colleges offer a wide variety of majors. If you know that you want to study nursing, engineering, or another very specific major, take this into account when you're choosing a college. Beware that some colleges have majors with what they call limited enrollment programs, where students apply to the major after taking 60 credit hours. Typically, this category is due to limited capacity for clinicals or internships. It can happen in healthcare fields. It can happen in teacher education programs. It can happen in business programs. So anyway, if this is a really important question to ask the colleges that you were considering, if you know that you want to major in a certain field. Next slide, please. If you have not already done so, should you take the test? And by the test, I mean the SAT or the ACT. Though tests are now optional for admissions purposes at many colleges and universities, test scores are still required for many scholarships. So this is one of the decision points where I'm actually going to give you the answer. And the answer is yes. If you have not taken the test already, please take the test to maximize your chances of accessing all financial aid that you are eligible for. Decision point number 9. Should I attend full-time or part-time? Full-time means quicker advancement towards the ultimate finish line, which is your degree. But can you balance your family and your work obligations with full-time attendance? Part-time is a fantastic option for those who juggle many responsibilities. And finally, last but not least, decision point number 9, how will I pay for college? And the good news is we are not going to discuss that in this presentation, but this will be the focus of a follow-up presentation next week. So please come back next week to learn all about paying for college. Next slide, please. And now it's time to hear from Latrina.
So let's talk about this. I want us to really just have a conversation because I'm going to be honest with you. When I first started out with selecting a college, I had no clue. This is where I really want to be transparent and honest with you. I had no clue where to begin. But what I am grateful for is that I was connected. I was really close to a community college here. I live in Georgia, in Athens to be exact. And I had access to my supervisor at the time. She was an adjunct professor at Athens Technical College. And, you know, she had heard me talk about wanting to go back to school, but just never made the steps, just never took the steps, had a lot of other things going on, but she kept on encouraging. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take like the little entry test. Cause if you're doing like a community college, I did not take the SAT or the ACT. So I learned differently, Michelle. So please do yourself a favor, take it. Go ahead and take it. If you're on the fence about it, just take it. And if you need to retake it. But I didn't. So guess what I had to do? I had to actually complete their entry test, which was okay. I did find out I needed to take some remedial courses, which Michelle did talk about, that can unfortunately eat up your financial aid. But let's kind of talk about that. I did go ahead and I took the remedial courses, which unfortunately, we don't even want to talk about a school that I went to that is not accredited. So I want to point this out because this is a very valid point. If you're going to pick in whatever college you're going to pick, please, ma'am, I beg of you to ensure that the school is an accredited college or university, okay? Because if you don't do what Latrina did. I attended a college prior to me going back to community college, and I wasted about $15,000, okay? And when you attend a university or college that's not accredited, that it's not accepted. If you're looking to transfer credits, they won't transfer, but this is not the, the webinar for this. Yes, Kat, $15,000, yes, so. But I don't want to get all upset and emotional about that because it gets better. I went back to community college, and I chose community college because I knew I needed to have a small classroom size. Going back as a non-traditional student, you know, for us, 35 and over, and yes, I was that when I went back to my community college, and I knew that me being in just a 4-year university, a large one anyways, was not what I needed. So you do have to know what's going to work best for you, and what I was going to need more, also not necessarily a one-on-one, but I was going to need to have access to my professor. And so I chose the Athens Technical College, and it was a perfect fit for me. Another reason, because it offered, I could go part-time and I could attend night classes because I was working full-time at that moment. And so that just made sense for me. And Michelle has given some amazing tips for you. I also knew that I wanted to transfer over into a 4-year institution. So I knew going into my 2-year, I needed to go in, I needed to hit the ground running, and I needed to ensure that I did what I needed to do as far as academically, so it wouldn't be a problem for me to transfer over. So that was the reason I picked the community college. But I want to give you all of the good things, but I want to tell you, I did not pick the right 4-year institution. Let me tell you why I say I did not. I chose my 4-year institution, which I'll tell you what it is so you can go and look up what the cost is. I went to the University of Georgia, and I went to the University of Georgia basically to just prove to some people that I could get accepted. You heard me right. I didn't count up the cost. I didn't look at the cost of attending, didn't even factor in how huge the class sizes were going to be. And I'm going to tell you now, it was not a perfect fit for me. Now, I still succeeded. However, I'm saying this to you, don't do it based off you wanting to prove something to anybody. If you want to prove something to somebody, prove it to yourself, okay? Because that's all that matters. But I went in, just know going in what you're going to have to deal with when you're in a larger institution and not being able to, you can touch your professor, but thinking about sitting in a classroom size of 500. You can touch them, but you got to really work and finagle. And as a non-traditional student, it was almost impossible for me to do that because by the time classes was over, I needed to be beelining it out to go pick up kids or whatever to drop them off or whatever the case may be. So all I'm saying to you, definitely count up the cost. And if you're going to go to an institution, don't do it based off what you're trying to show other people. You're smart, you're brilliant, you're bright. You don't have to prove that to anybody. If you're a non-traditional student going back to school with a family, working and doing all of that, that's proof in itself. Okay, so make sure you definitely count up the cost and know what the cost is going to be on all angles, whether that's just the cost to attend, books, fees, parking. I mean, there's so many things that I could talk about that we could get into, but just ensure you really give it a lot of thought as you're looking to actually pick a college that is going to benefit you and your family. Hope that makes sense, and definitely hope it helps somebody.
Thank you so much, Latrina. And, you know, I still remember my classes with 500 at the University of Maryland. And I had a calculus class with 500 that I will never forget. And I will never forget a text from my daughter when she was at the University of Maryland, when she was in her first class with 500. And it's really something. It is really an experience. So Latrina, that was really, thank you so much for sharing what you shared. And I assure you that we are going to have a really good talk about accreditation coming up. So I will definitely reinforce what you said about accreditation. Next slide, please. So now we're going to go after our first example, which is the nursing career pathway. And the fastest and most affordable route is to begin with a certificate program. For example, certified nursing assistant, geriatric nursing assistant, patient care technician, or licensed practical nurse. These are all non-degree options, which will allow you to work while you pursue your degree. Some employers offer educational benefits so that, for instance, if you are one of these initial certificates, you will be able to get paid by your employer while you study for a degree. Certificates yield lower salaries, but can be a great place to start. Another route is to attend a community college for an associate's degree and then take the RN license exam. Graduates can stop at this point or transfer into a BS in nursing program later. Finally, some students go right to a four-year university, take their prerequisite classes, then apply into the nursing program, complete their BSN, and then take the RN license exam. There are national and state license exams. Graduate programs exist at the master's or doctoral level. And these are relatively new programs, but if you want to continue in nursing, there are many, many options. Now, nursing is a fantastic and in-demand profession, which we've never needed more, with many, many pathways and great job opportunities. However, admission into degree programs may be very competitive. If you are interested in nursing, there are other healthcare majors that you can explore. For example, my daughter is an ultrasound tech, and she is doing very, very well. Respiratory therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy are a few others, but there are many, many healthcare careers beyond nursing. So think about that if nursing is on your mind. Next slide, please. Here's our second example, and this lays out a college with great student support, the American Women's College at Bay Path University. This is a virtual program. Students have great flexibility, six-week sessions each year. And in each session, students only take 1 or 2 classes. So it's a really good opportunity to delve in great detail into 1 or 2 classes. It's all online. The complications of transfer are very much simplified at the American Women's College. They allow students to transfer in up to 90 credits, and they also allow credit for prior learning, either at work, in volunteering, or in the military. And finally, the American Women's College is personalized for adult women learners. Students each get a dedicated educator coach. And I'll bet Latrina would tell us this did not happen at the University of Georgia, and I know it did not happen at University of Maryland either. They have an orientation that is actually individualized, again, with your dedicated educator coach. who helps you come up with your personalized academic plan. There are virtual learning communities that would substitute for in-person study groups that you may have at a community college or at a four-year college. There's wraparound support, and if you need help with housing, with food, with technology, with any other non-academic challenge, this is a very, very good option that they do. They do this very, very well. Uh-oh, where'd my slide? Oh, man.
Michelle, while you're doing that, I just wanted to kind of point out, you know, thank you for bringing in the American Women College here to talk about it. That's something I really want to stress to everybody that is listening and that will watch this webinar. Please do yourself a favor to ensure you see what type of support that is provided to you at the university, or, you know, or college, or wherever you're looking to go. You're right, Michelle. Listen, don't want to call them out, but I didn't have a coach there at the University of Georgia. But again, here, not saying it's a bad thing. You just have to know what you need. But having access to wraparound support, it's a game changer. And why can I say that? Because I did it as a non-traditional student. And sometimes that makes the difference as to if you will continue to go on to complete your education, or if it abruptly has to stop due to a challenge that you've encountered. So please do yourself a real huge favor in checking to see how and or what support is provided to you as a adult woman learner, and especially if you have kids and working full time and things of that nature. Okay.
Thank you so much, Latrina. There are amazing opportunities at American Women's College, and they get it, which is wonderful. This unique women's leadership program is a requirement for all students, and they have lifetime career coaching and assistance with salary negotiation for students and alumni. Honestly, I have never heard of any college that offers some of these, and in particular, career coaching and salary negotiations is generally not something that you can get assistance with. So this is really, really huge. Again, this is not the only option. These are only two examples that I wanted to share with you. And now it is time for the next slide, and let's hear from Kat.
Hey, thank you. All right. Well, I'm just taking it all in because I am having some flashbacks about my own experience, like when I started. And honestly, I was plugged right into my community college. I had just a little quick background on my story. I never went to middle school or high school. I was pulled out of public school when I was 12 years old, and I never went back. So the last grade that I actually completed before starting college was 6th grade in elementary school. So from the time I was 13 up until the time I was about 32 or so, I didn't have any education at all, besides working at really bad temp and dead end jobs. So I decided when my children were really young, I have 3 kids, I'm a single mama. And when they were really young, I was just tired of working dead end jobs and making ends meet and just barely scraping by. I mean, not even scraping by. I was really having a hard time affording my rent. So I decided to go and I just decided to go get my GED, because the way that financial aid is structured now, you can't get financial aid until you complete either a GED or a high school completion. So it was like the one piece of my getting forward that I really had to do. So I had my kids enrolled in Head Start, and the Head Start program, it's for low income families for kids in preschool. And they actually paid for me to take some GED classes at my local community college. Those were the only, that was the only place that was local and close enough to where I could get there to take the GED classes. And so I took the GED classes. So I kind of familiarized myself with that campus already. And they had an adult learning program that kind of already plugs you into your associates. So once you get your GED, they really encourage during that program to keep going. And so it was with that support at my community college. I didn't even consider a university at all. In fact, I honestly didn't even think I would get my GED. I thought that I was going to stop there and just like, okay, well, this is great. I have my GED and that's all I need. But instead I kept going. And luckily for me, within that time that I was taking those classes, I applied for financial aid, and I was already ready to get it. And I got accepted for financial aid once I passed the GED. And then I started immediately into those community college courses. And so the biggest determination for me in picking an actual college when I went to university was whether or not I was going to actually continue on and get a bachelor's degree, or whether or not I actually wanted to just stay put and just get my associate's degree. And I thought, I'm already doing this, man. This is actually kind of a really good groove that I'm in, and I'm just going to keep on going with it. And I did. And so at the time I was living in LA, and I was actually taking all of my courses online because I'm from Oregon. I'm here in Oregon right now. And I just happened to do a big move to Los Angeles with my kids and my ex-husband. And I didn't get into any of the schools there in California. They had a record number of applicants. They just happened to be the year that I applied for all of the Cal State schools, and I wasn't technically a resident yet. And they give priority registration to local residents of California. So I decided to come back to Oregon. We decided to move back so I could have the opportunity to go to university without a doubt. And my biggest determinants were I wanted to be able to commute easily to my school because I have 3 young children and they are all asthmatic. And I just didn't want any chance of them having any kind of medical things and me not be able to get back to them as quick as I could from the campus. So that was a huge one. I didn't want to have to park and commute to the campus. I wanted to park on campus and get to and from my car if I need to for emergencies. And then the other big one for me was the price. I wanted to make sure that they had the support I needed. And it just so happened that the University of Oregon has an awesome program called TRIO. TRIO is a federally funded program for low-income first-gen students sometimes with disabilities, or there are different qualifications for it, but I was eligible for the program. I got a full ride scholarship through TRIO because I just have a lot of barriers to completing my degree. And so I thought, yeah, I'm just going to apply for every program they have on that campus. I'm just going to go for it. And they also, they call it an R1 research school. So they have a lot of funding for research, and I really love science. And so I went for it. And then as soon as I got on the campus, I felt like the one thing that was one of the things that were missing for me was just a sense of belonging. It's a traditional campus. I just walked into the sea of youth, and there were just all of these 19 to 24-year-olds that I just felt like I am like everybody's mama up in here right now. So that was important to me, was to find a sense of belonging. And so I would say if anybody is choosing a college, go on campus, get there, go on campus, find out if you're not feeling like you're belonging there. It's an important piece of wanting to go somewhere. If you feel like you don't belong there, you don't really want to be there, so you have to cut out a piece of earth for yourself in that place. So go on campus and find that place for yourself, find the programs that'll support you, find the clubs that'll support you, and then just make it happen. Thanks for listening to my story, guys.
Thank you, Kat. What an amazing story, and you're an amazing inspiration to all of us. Next slide, please. Now we're going to move into the tips portion of this program. Here is tip number 1: choose a college that offers support and flexibility for non-traditional students. Like Kat just said, always tour the campus and do not hesitate to ask questions. I'm going to say this over and over again. Ask questions. Do not be afraid. Choose a college that prioritizes academic advising. In my son's freshman year, his advisor was overseas He never knew that. We later learned that he was supposed to be assigned a different advisor, but that never happened. Academic advising is really important, so ask about this for sure. Ask if there's a campus tutoring center where you can go for individual or small group help when you have a problem in an English or a math class or a science lab. This again is a very, very important question. Ask about scheduling and locations. And if you need weekend or evening classes, or if you need classes close to home, ask about this. Ask if there's on-site childcare. And if there is, it is really important to ask, are there openings? And if there are openings, how do I get my kid or kids into the childcare center? Some campuses have on-site healthcare. This is an important question to ask if this is a concern for you. Some campuses have a food pantry. Some have on-campus family housing or assistance finding affordable housing. At some colleges, there are one-stop centers where all of these, what are called wraparound services, are centralized. Again, if this is something that is important to you, ask about this. Many colleges are now offering emergency funding for small emergencies under $1,000 that are related to transportation, food, housing, or childcare, for example, that may otherwise cause a student to leave school. This is another really important question for you to ask when you are visiting the campus. And finally, ask how the college has handled COVID and what has changed since COVID. This is a very, very important question because how a college has handled COVID speaks volumes about the college. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Choose a college that prioritizes helping students and graduates succeed. Ask about the library and computer lab hours. Are they open when you will need them to be open? Ask if you will be assigned a coach or a mentor. I'm a firm believer that at every stage of life, we all need a mentor to help us think through opportunities, options, and problems. And we've all never had more problems than we've had during COVID. Ask if the college helps with internship placement and career services. And if the answer is yes, ask for details. Also ask if there is a supportive alumni network that helps students with internships and with jobs. And if yes, request details. Finally, college campuses are often big places. It is important to know who to go to on campus for answers. Ask who will help you if you cannot find information you need on your own. Next slide, please. Tip number 3, choose a major with care. Make sure you choose a major where you will have a passion for the work and where you can do very well and succeed. Ask whether your major is a limited enrollment program requiring application, another level of application at a later date. The son of my longtime hairstylist wanted to study nursing. He applied to the nursing program at his university twice and was turned down both times. As a plan B, and you always got to have a plan B, he applied and was accepted into the respiratory therapy major. He earned his degree and certification and got a great job at a hospital. And thanks to COVID, he has done extremely well. Find someone who works in your desired major and ask to shadow them on their job to get a taste of what they do. If you remain interested, ask if they will be your mentor and your guide as you pursue your degree and get started in your career. Do your homework. There's a website called onetonline.org, and you can go to this website to learn whether job opportunities and career growth potential exist in your field of interest in your community. Know what the earning potential is and whether a graduate degree will be needed to advance in your field of choice. And finally, if you are undecided about your major, do not panic. This is normal. You are not alone. Take a career interest quiz. There are many flooding the internet, or you can go to your county job center for testing as well. Next slide, please. Tip number 4, Latrina, choose an accredited college. The United States Department of Education says accreditation demonstrates that the college meets its quality standards. Federal financial aid, both grants and loans, are not available in many cases to students who choose an unaccredited college. Most employer assistance programs will not fund students attending unaccredited college. And finally, if you choose an unaccredited college, there will likely be problems transferring credits, getting into graduate school, and finding employment. And lack of accreditation may be a signal that a college is having financial trouble and may not be around when it is time for you to graduate. So again, please choose a college that is accredited. And if you don't know, ask for proof, make them show you. Tip number 5, take classes that will transfer. This is very important and can be a very costly mistake with both money and time. Tip number 6, beware of non-credit remedial classes. Remedial classes, particularly in English and in math, may be required by certain majors for certain students who do not reach required scores on the AccuPlacer. Beware that these classes cost money and they count towards your financial aid, but they are not for credit and they do not get students any closer to the finish line. Tip number 7, beware of for-profit colleges. They overpromise and underdeliver. No doubt you have seen TV and radio commercials, billboards, and ads on buses for certain for-profit colleges. Again, they overpromise and underdeliver, and their degrees are not always respected by employers. How can you know if a college is a for-profit? Look them up in the U.S. Department of Education College Scorecard, where just below the college name, it will say whether they are nonprofit or for-profit. Names of for-profit colleges that you may recognize are Strayer, Phoenix, and DeVry, but there are many others. Let the buyer beware and always do your homework. Tip number 8, really take the time to understand how much a college is going to cost and only borrow the money that you need. Do not overborrow because you will need to pay it back. Now is a good time for a plug for the upcoming presentation on how to pay for college, where we'll zero in on these questions and more. Next slide, please. Last but not least is tip number 9. You are going to college with the goal of getting to the finish line. Always keep your eye on the finish line and keep going until you complete your degree. There will be days when you ask the question, is this worth it? The answer is yes. I know people who are very close to me who have taken 10 years or more to complete their bachelor's degree. When you are working and you have family obligations, it is really hard. It is really, really hard, but stick with it until you finish. Next slide, please. Now we will offer 2 great resources to help you choose your college. First, Big Future by the College Board, which offers tools to help you find a college, explore careers, pay for college, gain admission, and make your plan. It is a great free tool. Next slide, please. Another excellent free resource is the U.S. Department of Education College Scorecard, which I have already mentioned. We're going to wrap up now with a quick demo of the College Scorecard. So at this point, I am going to share my screen. Okay, I cannot find it on my screen.
Okay. And
Latrina has a
Michelle.
question really quick,
Yeah.
Michelle.
Okay, do that, and I will find this on my screen.
Okay, and so while you're looking, before I ask the question, I really wanted to talk about that for-profit. you actually gave a site where they can go to check. So if you'll say that, because I didn't catch it, I was like, oh, she said it too quickly. You said where we could go to check it. So Kat, if you can drop that in the chat, that will be
Actually,
great.
okay, Latrina, it is on the screen right now. Can you see my screen?
I can.
The U.S.
I can.
Department of Education College
Yeah.
Scorecard. This is the website that I referenced. Okay, and we are going to do a quick demo from this website. This is a product of the United States Department of Education, and you can use this to search for a college. You can put in your zip code and search for distance by miles, major, whether you want to pursue a certificate or degree, the percent of students who graduate in 8 years, and the average annual cost after federal financial aid. Okay, so we are going to do an example right now. Okay, we're going to click on custom search. Okay, location. We are going to say the state of North Carolina. And there it is. Okay, and let's just, and we need to pick a major. So just for kicks, we're going to pick civil engineering. Actually, let me start typing it. Okay, but you can pick any major that you're looking at, and they may not all be there, but I would say there are many, many majors on this list. Next, we're going to go for a bachelor's degree. And now we're going to click on Find Schools. Okay, and you can see that four schools came up, all in North Carolina. The first, Duke University, is a private college or private university. And I want to show you at the bottom the average annual cost. And this average annual cost is after need-based federal, state, and institutional financial aid. Okay, so that's $27,000 after all that financial aid. North Carolina State is a public university in Raleigh. Oh, one other thing I want to point out, the graduation rate at Duke, and this is an 8-year graduation rate, or 6-year, is 95%. NC State, 79%. And the average annual cost after need-based aid is $16,000. Next, you have University of North Carolina at Charlotte, which is a public university, 58% graduation rate, and the average annual cost is $17,000. And your fourth option is North Carolina A&T. Again, a public university, the graduation rate is 46%. And the average annual cost is the lowest of these four schools. It's 10%, is $10,000 after financial aid. So we are just going to take a moment and delve into one school, North Carolina State University. So you actually click on the school. And you can see a lot more details. Okay, number one, they show you a map of where the school is located. You can see the number of undergraduates, the website. It's a 4-year institution. It's public. It's in a city, and it's considered large. The graduation rate, and if you could see that little eye, if you hover over it, it will tell you that this is an 8-year graduation rate from the time a student first enters the school. Okay, so 79%, which is pretty good. The salary after completing the degree, and if you click on the eye, you could see that this is for students 2 years after graduation. So the salary range is about $17,000 to about $70,000. but we're going to go back to civil engineering in just a moment, and we're going to see what that salary is for civil engineering. Again, the average annual cost, and this cost is the total cost of attendance, and we're going to learn more about that in the follow-up presentation. But the average annual cost includes tuition, living costs, which is room and board, books and supplies, and fees, minus the average grants and scholarships for federal financial aid recipients. Okay, so now we're going to go back to field of study. And again, we're going to go back to civil. Oh, we're going to go to engineering, and then under engineering, you have civil. Okay, so salary after completing the field of study, and again, this is for 2 years out, is $56,000, and the number of graduates from this program in 1 year is 131 graduates. So you can get a lot of really good information right off of this this college scorecard. It is a fantastic tool. There are other tabs here for fields of study, costs, graduation and retention, financial aid and debt, salary after completing field by field of study, student body, and test scores. Anyway, this is a very, very good tool. So please keep an eye on this and use it when you're doing your homework. It is really important. I cannot emphasize enough, you have got to do your homework. Anyway, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Can I just
Kat has
interject
a
really
question.
quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Latrina. I was just gonna say quickly, I actually did my honors thesis on non-traditional students and did a lot of research on that. And actually, the U.S. Department of Education is not required by law to report stats on non-traditional students, and those are students over the age of 24 who claim themselves as independent from their parents. So it's actually around 65% of student data that's not representative on college campuses. So a lot of those graduation rates actually aren't representative of non-traditional students. So imagine like your determination, your grit that you're using to really fuel yourself to overcome a lot of these barriers to complete a degree, that like maybe those lower numbers or even those higher numbers at some of those universities don't always encapsulate your experience. So I would just want to like encourage you, don't use that number. If it's like a lower number and you're like, ooh, this college isn't supporting the students very well, it just may be that you need to dig deeper of what type of programming they do offer for non-traditional students, because those numbers are actually based on a completely different demographic and population than what we're talking about as older returning students who are over the age of 35. So just keep that in mind when you do look for a college and look at those that data from that source. Just a heads up.
Thank you so much, Kat. Can you hear me? I'm not on mute, am I? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. So I'm looking in the chat box right now, and I see the comment, I loved my community college. And, you know, community colleges really do bring a lot of value, and they are a fantastic place to start. A question, can bad test scores on the SAT or ACT reflect poorly on your academic abilities and impact your opportunities negatively? To me, you've got to take the test just to be able to access financial aid opportunities. And, you know, I would say prepare for the test. And that is something that can get higher test scores if you take advantage of opportunities to prepare for the test. I hate to walk away from any money. So I would definitely encourage taking the test. 15,000 is a lot of money to waste. It really is. Latrina, that story was really something. Let's see.
I can help with the chat a little bit, Michelle, if you want. There were questions about the SAT and ACT, and I just want to wait until the Q&A. One of the things I think I know I would just encourage any applicants that are looking for a college is just Google it. And I just Googled SAT and ACT if they're required, and none of the community colleges in Oregon, that's where I'm at, none of the Oregon community colleges require it, whereas maybe some other locations do. So I would just, if you're interested in a place where you're living, I would just Google that. And then you probably can also talk to the registrar. So just call the actual university or community college and just ask the registrar if they do require that. And oftentimes that department would absolutely know, because they're the ones that are admitting students and actually approving registration.
Kat, I have a question for you. You talked about the TRIO program. What was it like being a non-traditional student in a TRIO program?
It was like being wrapped up in a warm blanket that just got out of the dryer. It was so warm and welcoming. And yeah, I mean, I think any program that understands that they're serving vulnerable populations who are returning to school and really overcoming barriers, these are people who know the challenges that students face. And so I think like TRIO or any other program on campus that really focuses on student support like that, they're prepared to, they're trained. They go through rigorous training and they have work experience, and they also have personal experience connecting with students to be able to really understand that there are unique needs. And a good example of that, one of the services that TRIO provides is academic advising. And we were talking about, like Latrina was saying, she didn't really have an advisor, like a mentor on her campus immediately. And so she got bad advice, or she didn't get any advice. And in my case, I am a psychology major, and the psych department at the University of Oregon is huge. It's one of the biggest departments on campus. And we're talking thousands of students. So these big lecture halls are like 200, 300 packed full, like bigger than a movie theater full of students. And my academic advisor was also the academic advisor to hundreds of other students. And she didn't know my situation as a non-traditional student. She didn't know that I'm a single mom. She didn't know how many barriers I had to paying for housing, paying for healthcare costs, and being able to like navigate that world. But my TRIO advisor did. And so, just any kind of programming that's available on campus. If you don't have a TRIO program, go to your dean of students. There's oftentimes a dean of students on campus, or somebody that's in charge of student support services, and they can give you a lot of that information that you might need that's unique to your situation, and you have to share it, otherwise they can't read your mind. But that's one of the real advantages to finding universities and community colleges that have programming on campus for students like us, is you have to find that warm blanket to be wrapped up in.
So there was a
Awesome.
question about the website to explore
Yeah.
careers, and that was onetonline.org. And it is a fantastic website, and you can get a lot of information on this website to see what kind of careers there are, and what opportunities there are in terms of pathways, and in terms of opportunities and salaries, for instance.
Michelle, is it just O, like the letter?
The letter O, onetonline.org.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And I did put it in the chat. Yep. What other questions do we have?
I don't see it in the chat, because I think it was Camille put something in there, but it was
Oh.
like oh.net. So I wanted to make sure it was spelled correctly.
Okay.
I see the college scorecard, but I don't see that one.
Oh, I just added it right now. So if you
Okay.
look at the very bottom of the chat, do you see it?
Yeah, I did. I can put it in too, because I just copied and pasted the link. But I was gonna mention,
Got it.
somebody did message me, one of our participants, about flexible lab hours, and I just wanted to thank that person for messaging about that. And one of the reasons that that's important I would always talk to your professors about that, because oftentimes it's your professor that's in your department that will have information about labs, and depending on what program you're in. If you're like in a nursing program, I'm not familiar with the nursing program because I went through psychology and neuroscience, but I think if you are interested in any kind of lab times, I would talk to your department head first, because they're the ones that would know. So it could just be your undergrad coordinator, and then ask them, hey, are there any labs that offer flexible hours, especially if you have life challenges like having children or caring for a loved one or working full-time or part-time. A lot of the time that can be hard. And another thing, I know I'm throwing things out there a lot, but another thing that's important too is a lot of programs on your campus might have priority registration, and that is a resource that's offered to students that do have kind of additional life challenges and barriers, and it allows you to register for classes before anybody else does. And so let's say that you're in a big program and you have to take, I'll just give you a personal example of for my college, I had to take all my language the first year. I had to take Spanish my entire first year, and they only offer it fall, and they start that first piece in fall, and then you have to take it winter and then spring quarter. And if you don't take it in fall, you have to wait an entire year to take it. And so if the classes fill up and you miss that and you just didn't get it in on time, you have to wait an entire year. And if you want to finish your undergrad in, like a few years, you just missed the boat. So I encourage you to ask about priority registration and if they have any resources on campus, so that way you can bypass a lot of these people who are just registering immediately. You may be at work from a 9-to-5 job and you can't get on a computer to go register for your classes when that registration opens. But if you get priority registration, they allow you to register a week or even 2 weeks prior to the actual registration opening. So, and they also sometimes they offer like a head start for students that are in their junior or senior year. They offer like a day in advance to register before anybody else. So look into those opportunities so that way you can get on it quickly. And then, sorry to circle back about the lab hours, ask your professors any opportunities that are open to you as a non-traditional student that you can access that are a little bit more lenient with your schedule. It's important, and you have to communicate those needs, otherwise people don't know.
And I want to say we got just a second because I don't want to let some people jump off. Thank you for putting in the chat that you need to go because you have another meeting. I want to tell those thank you so much for those that have stayed, because we are at 5. I think we're scheduled to go to 5:30, and I know we'll go over into Q&A. So we definitely want to make sure if you have any other questions before you go, we want to make sure we address those. And even if you need to go and have a question, it'll be in the recording, so you still can come back and get that answer to that question. So thank you so much again for jumping on with us well, this I was gonna say tonight. It's not night just yet, it's still afternoon, and that we've said something or shared something that has been helpful to you, or maybe if it wasn't, you can share it on with somebody else. I will say there are a few other questions that are in there that I want us to address. Thank you, Kat, for putting that we have a workshop coming up. Michelle, somebody put a question in. I think Kat and I both can speak to it, but she asked about what about learning disability services?
And I see that. And again, Rebecca, if that is something that is important to you, please make sure when you tour the campus, when you visit, ask about this. And actually, if they have a center or they have a specialist, go talk to them and ask the hard questions that matter to you. Latrina and Kat, do you have anything to add about to that?
Absolutely, I do. I will say that one of the things that I did because it interested me, I actually took or I received a disability certificate because at that time I was in another role and was working with youth with disabilities and just wanted to really understand it a little more and have just education around it. I will say at whatever school you're going, as Michelle just mentioned, do your work up front to see what services are there. Now, Kat, I know, can talk a little bit more about schools providing accommodations, and they do, and they should by law. But you know, without us having to get into the weeds of everything, you have to kind of sometimes have, I don't want to say proof, but have something documented. And that kind of varies. Again, I don't want to, because every school is different, but I will say that just do know your rights going into this, so that when you approach your school about any accommodations or things that they can provide, you already know what by law they should be providing, with, like I said, with the knowledge of them, you being able to provide some type of documentation or proof as well. But most schools, I think I'm safe to feel and say that by law, they are required to provide certain accommodations to you. So Kat, I know you can talk a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah, I'll just wink at it really quickly. I was going to just say that the whatever they call it, disability services at University of Oregon, they call the AEC, or Accessibility Education Center. They are required by law to accommodate you with a documented disability when you apply for it. So like your professors wouldn't automatically know. In my case, I have ADD, and so I have a lot of focus issues, and I really need that extra testing time. I need, you know, my deadlines extended for certain assignments, and I also have kids. And unfortunately, and it sounds absurd, but the American Disability Act doesn't recognize being a mother and working from home and going to school from home as a disability, so it doesn't count. But you can talk to your professors, and if you have some kind of disability that like a learning disability that you don't necessarily have like a doctor's note or documentation for, a lot of professors, especially now during COVID, because they're working from home too, and they probably have kids or lives that they get distracted from. So they get it. Most professors want to help you. Just reach out to them and say, hey, I need a little bit more time on this assignment, or just like, don't write a novel about your whole life to them, but just say like, this is something that I'm challenged with, and can you help me with this? And most people are very human about it. And most professors want to know that you're struggling. It's their job to help you. So just reach out. And then again, if you have something that's actually documented, that's a barrier to your success, talk to your advisor about it, because they would have those resources available to you. They should. And if they don't, find another advisor, somebody else that can help you with those services, and then make sure that you have accommodations in place. And I cannot stress this enough. It's not a favor that you're asking them. This is your life. This is what the campus and university is built for. It's built for you to be successful in your program and to be able to succeed and graduate. So it's not like you're asking them a favor to understand that you're human. Just go and put it out there and let people know, I'm having a hard time and I need your help, and people will jump on board.
And this is another really important reason why you have got to pick the right school, the school that is going to be a really good fit for you. And not every college is the best at everything. And I believe that there's certain colleges that just serve certain populations better. So anyway, I just think it's just part of doing your homework. And again, let the buyer beware.
Absolutely.
And I was just going to say, Rebecca, that time management workshop, if you're interested in going this Sunday, we'll talk a lot about strategies on focusing, and if that helps at all. And it'll be recorded, so you guys can access that later, but that may be helpful for you. Excellent.
Do we have any other questions? Because we obviously are now in the Q&A portion of the presentation. So are there other questions that are not in the chat?
I think we answered all the ones in the chat, but by all means, if there are some other questions, go ahead and drop them in there. We're here. Like I said, we're open book. I think I replied to somebody, whatever Kat and I can share. But again, it's not about our experiences. We want to definitely, hopefully, provide some type of information and context to help you be able to pick the best college. So that's why we're here, and we're excited to be able to provide this workshop to you on today.
And are there any other questions about anything that was included in the presentation? Any of the decision points or the tips or the resources? Kat?
always have questions. Latrina's going to laugh at me because she's always asking questions. I don't know if you talked about dual enrollment, and that's something that I know a lot of community colleges and universities that are local and close in proximity, they kind of marry with each other and play nice. And so what kind of advice or information can you give about dual enrollment, and is that beneficial when you are wanting to transfer over into a university from a community college?
Okay, so are you specifically asking about dual enrollment with high school and community college? Is that your question, or dual
We're
enrollment?
not, the high school doesn't apply to us because none of us are going from high school to community college. I'm talking about community college to university. So like I know one of my sisters is in she's going to community college right now, and she's transferred over to a university. They specialize in education. She's going to be a grade school teacher, and so her university accepts her credits from community college transfer over, but she can be dual enrolled in both colleges and receive financial aid as long as she's in a certain type of program. And so I know a lot of community colleges and universities, they don't allow you to be enrolled in two separate universities unless there's a symbiotic relationship with them. So I think just kind of taking a quick moment to understand how dual enrollment works for non-traditional students, because a lot of the time they're transferring from a community college to a university. And if you're not sure if your financial aid will cover both, and you're wanting to take upper level courses, like 300 level courses, while taking, say, 100 level courses that don't offer a bachelor's degree at a community college level, I would suggest that you just make sure that if you're transferring over, that your university may allow you to take upper division courses at a university while being enrolled also at your community college. Does that make sense, Michelle?
This makes a lot of sense. And this is a really important question, that if this is something that you are interested in doing, you have got to ask questions of both the community college and the four-year college or university. There was a student who, it was actually a mother who was a student herself, who I spoke to in recent months. She was shut out of the federal emergency funds during COVID. Why? Because to save money, she was registered at a four-year university. To save money, she took a couple of general ed classes at the community college one semester. And for that reason, she was not able to get federal relief funding from either the community college or her four-year university. She fell into a gray area that no one could address. So anyway, I mean, it sounds like a wonderful option, but again, do your homework and make sure, talk to both institutions and talk about transfer matters, financial aid matters, and anything else. Just question it all, get it in writing, and don't do it if there's any reason why you shouldn't do it. Don't do it, because you don't want to get yourself into a situation where it's going to cost more money and take more time because you thought that you were doing the right thing. But if it can work, it sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it can be. And like something else, I think you kind of pointed out, I think it kind of was interwoven into the presentation. As a non-traditional student, we wear many, many hats. And so just thinking about considering that dual enrollment, that's going to be, your time is juggled. One may be online, and whereas one may be in person, but you're juggling multiple, courses at the same time, and just ensuring, like you said, I think it could definitely be an amazing tool to be able to get you finished. And Viola put in there that she utilized dual enrollment. But again, just keeping in mind, you have to balance that out, your life as well as school, and ensure that it's beneficial for you. And as Michelle, you said, great point, to look at, you don't want to be in a situation. We see it more times than we want to see it. at the Jeanette Rankin Foundation. I don't even want to get into a conversation about displacement of funds or things of that nature, but it happens. It happens more time than I care to even have us even discuss or talk about, but just know if you're looking to do that, how financially that can affect you.
Yeah, I was just
Kat?
going to piggyback off of that because I qualified for tutoring through the TRIO program at the University of Oregon when I transferred over, and it was free tutoring services for language. And it was incredibly helpful to be able to access a Spanish tutor when I needed. It was a really hard course for me. And if I would have been dual enrolled at the local community college, the courses were cheaper. They offered the Spanish 101, 102, and 103 courses for a lot less, but I didn't qualify for tutoring services through the community college. I would have lost that resource at the university level because it would have been a different program. And so that was a determining factor for me to stay put at the University of Oregon instead of, even though it saved a little bit of money overall, it kind of washed out. And then I wouldn't have had, because I would have had to pay for a tutor out of pocket, and then I would have had to travel all the way to the community college. And it was like, you know what, this is just too much. So those little tiny details really make a huge difference. And I'm not saying that dual enrollment isn't great. It could be great, but just to keep in mind, always think about what your motivation is to choosing a college, what the most important things are to you. And if it's, having flexibility and not having to go too many places, that may be something that you make sure that you look at, how they're accommodating that. Or if it's programming and they're offering a lot of great programs, just make sure that you keep your main reasons in mind and ask lots and lots of questions, all the questions.
I can't agree. I cannot agree more with what you just said. I mean, you have got to be your own advocate. And once you ask the hard questions before you select your college. And then once you get there, you have got to be your own advocate. I mean, that really is the most important lesson to take away. Ask questions. Speaking of questions, do we have any other questions? Or Latrina and Kat, are there, is there anything else that you would like to say?
I mean, I would just say one more thing. Latrina, you were talking about it earlier in the large class sizes in choosing a college. And sometimes you can't help but go to a local university that's closest to you because that's just the one that you have to go to and you have no other options. But I will say that if you have a big class that you're in, just a tip that I would suggest to non-traditional students, if you don't want to feel out of place and you want to connect with your professor and you have to just get out of class immediately after class, like Latrina was saying, she had to pick up kids, and you really want that opportunity. A professor actually gave me really good advice when I started going to college, and that was sit in the front row. Right. For multiple reasons. You will have direct access to your professor and they will see you day to day, which builds a visual connection with you and a familiarity. And the other really cool thing is that you don't have to see all the people on their phones or devices and distracted. You won't get distracted. So when you're sitting right up front in the front row, it may seem a little intimidating at first, but you will get all of that access to that great information. You don't have to get distracted at all, and you connect with your professors. So it's just a pro tip.
And in my calculus class with 500 at the University of Maryland, we were watching the professor on a screen. And I mean, imagine, there's no way to learn a tough class like calculus. Holy cow. Okay, well, unless there's any other questions, you have been a fantastic audience, and I truly wish all of you well in your college search, and hope that you will join us for part 2, how to pay for college. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I want, before we close out, I thank you, Michelle, a fantastic job on presenting this information on how to pick a college. So thank you so much. I definitely have to thank all of the attendees, because it wouldn't be what it was without you guys coming to hang out with us for this particular session. Kat has placed in the chat here, we do have several more webinars coming up. We have time management on this coming Sunday. It's 4 p.m. Eastern time. So just know, you see here, we have the QR code here. So just go ahead and click on it, take that picture, go to our website. You can register for that one. And then Michelle is back next Wednesday, how to pay for college. So November the 17th, again at 4 o'clock. So we tried to keep that consistent so that way you don't get confused with the time, but definitely go ahead and register so that way you can get a reminder and the link and all of the amazing information that you need to be able to join us for the upcoming ones. Just know if you missed the one we just had on this past Sunday, that was College 101. So kind of more so for the newer college student terms, and which was an amazing session that we had with Dr. Yates. That, I don't know if it's already up. Is that already up on our site yet, Kat?
I don't think so, but I think it
Okay.
should be by the end of this week. So
Yeah.
we should be getting that up ASAP.
Okay, awesome. And Viola, thank you for asking the question. And it would just not be good of me being the scholarship program director if I did not mention the amazing opportunity that we have coming up that is here. Now, it's not coming up, it's here now. When we talked about it Sunday, it was coming up because we didn't open. Our scholarship cycle is open. That's right. It is open like right now. So if you haven't checked us out, that rankinfoundation.org, click on apply. If you're going back to complete your first bachelor's degree or lower, you live in the United States, because we're a national organization. If you're in Georgia, you can be 25 and over. If you're outside of Georgia, the age is 35 and older. And so guess what? If you're not eligible and don't qualify, don't be selfish. Share it over with somebody else who is, okay? So that's how one way you can partner with us, Viola. And since you've asked, because it appears, Viola, that you've already graduated, I think maybe with your bachelor's, maybe not, whichever one it is. We're always looking for individuals to volunteer with our organization via application readers. So if you love the mission and the work that we do, you can definitely partner with us in that capacity. Again, Kat, you can, Kat, if you'll message Viola and give her my information, or Viola, the best thing probably is to just go to our website. There's a link up there where you can click on volunteer. And if you submit a link there, we'll have your name in there and I'll definitely reach out. But we can definitely stay in contact and get connected with you. And thank you for asking for ways that you can partner with us. We're always looking for individuals that like to do that. You're amazing for asking that question. And we look forward to getting to know you a little bit more in that capacity. But again, thanks so much, Michelle. Thank you, Kat. Thank you to you all, our CFO who is not here, Karen Stirk. You see her face on the screen, so she's not here. You see the one that says JRF, how to pick a college. She definitely would have been here, but she had another engagement on today. I see Camille. Camille, can you put in the chat? I see your hand raised. I don't want to.
She has a sore throat right now, so, but
Oh,
yeah,
no, I was
Camille,
saying type in the chat. Type in the chat. Is she? Yeah. So definitely type in the chat, Camille, and we don't want to leave without addressing any questions that anybody else may have. But again, thank y'all so much. It has definitely been an amazing presentation on this evening, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people to be able to pick that right college. That scorecard, I think, is really a game changer, Michelle. So everybody can go over and look at that. Yes, Camille. Kat, she asked that. We had it today. We actually already had it. It was 2 p.m. Eastern time. So we already had it. And what is that, 11 for you, Kat?
Yeah, I'll reach out to you, Camille, next week. I'll send you, because you're in my, or homes. Yeah, I think you're on the East Coast. So I think I will send you an email out next week for it. So you're good.
Thank you, Viola.
All right.
We're excited and delighted to do the work that we do. We have fun actually being able to help women do what it is that a lot of them have started. We just try and help them finish it. So that's the goal, to get them across that finish line to college completion. So thank you. Thank you again so much to everyone. If that's it, no other questions, you all have an amazing, fantastic evening. And thanks again for joining. Bye for now.
Bye, ladies.